Well, that was a movie.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of trying out these new mics. Hopefully,
Hey.
they still don't sound terrible. We'll find out later. So tonight we're giving our first thoughts on A Real Pain 2 Baby Time. The baby. So this is called Sacramento. It is a debut feature by first-time writer-director Michael Arangano. You may know him from his child acting days in Sky High.
Yes.
Some other stuff too. That's probably his
Sky
most
High.
famous role. He was also in Oppenheimer, by the way. Tiny role.
Sure, but Sky High.
Yeah, also Michael Cera's in this movie and Kristen Stewart in this movie. I believe Kristen Stewart produced it. I should double check that. She did not. I'm going to edit that part out. It's also got some other people in it. Who's that wrestler? What's her name?
Oh, AJ, I guess she's going by Mendez now, but she was AJ Lee when she was wrestling.
Yeah, Michael Angarano, the writer-director of this movie, had a crush on her, apparently, and so cast her
I
in
did
this
too.
movie.
I totally approve of that casting.
Yeah, it's
10 out of
literally
10.
just like, all right, we're going to have this character here for me. That is why I also just smacked my mic.
10 out
I
of
was
10.
giving you shit for making noise, and I just smacked the mic. All right. So I brought up A Real Pain because there's some obvious correlations that I'm sure everybody is going to connect here.
Yeah.
Essentially, Michael Arangano's character is Kieran Culkin's character, and Michael Cera's character is Jesse Eisenberg's character from A Real Pain. They're very similar in a lot of ways. Also by a first-time writer-director, so comparisons in abundance. This movie's not nearly as good as A Real Pain, though. A Real Pain was, one of the best movies last year. Should have won Best Original Screenplay at the Oscars. This movie will not be nominated for any Oscars. Not to say it's a bad movie. It was a good time. It kind of felt like a student film to me at moments. I still did enjoy it, though. What were you thinking coming out of that?
Listen, maybe it's because we walked out of the amateur before this one. I was really enjoying this one. I mean, definitely not movie of the year or anything.
Right.
But I was pleasantly thrilled. I definitely
Thrilled.
Maybe that's the wrong way. I was
Chills, thrills.
I was pleasantly pleased.
Pleasantly pleased.
Yes, I definitely caught the Real Pain comparisons.
Yeah.
The entire movie, it was kind of screaming at you.
Yeah.
I agree. I didn't like it as much as that one, but
Yeah.
it was pretty solid for what it was, and I like the little common theme that they have. I guess you already said the addition, so.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's not a spoiler that. So Michael Cera's wife, which is Kristen Stewart, she's pregnant, and so he's kind of like really hyper about it. This movie, I did enjoy a lot of parts of it. I really do enjoy indie, films, like low budget films that are original and don't feel like they have to follow constraints of typical Hollywood filmmaking. I like that, the creativity that comes along with that. This movie definitely felt like it could have used a helping hand as far as some producer going like, all right, well, these decisions don't make sense, because it felt like it wanted to be a screwball comedy with some of the decisions that were being made, but it was simultaneously too grounded in reality that the screwball didn't work. It just felt like, well, why are these people so weird?
Yeah.
With something like Napoleon Dynamite, it's a screwball comedy, and it all makes sense because every character in this universe is so weird and so like unique and so bizarre.
Yeah.
And so when weird decisions are happening, you're like, okay, this is funny. These are caricatures of what it's like to be in Iowa, I think that movie is. This
Sure.
movie, it's just like, it felt too grounded and felt too real. So when the weird stuff happened, you're just like, that seems so out of left field. But I don't want to say it was bad. I did still enjoy it. It being so similar in concept to A Real Pain, though, was tough for me because A Real Pain is so much better. But yeah, I mean, I did enjoy it too. But I don't know. It seems like you may have liked it more than me.
Quite possibly. This one's got to be at least like 6.5 for me.
Yeah, I
At
could
least.
I could see that. I'm not gonna fight you on that. Yeah, I mean, it's a perfectly fine movie. I don't know. I have some issues with it, but they're not strong. Like I said, the thing with the screwball not working for me, that's my biggest issue, is this movie didn't feel like, and there's a lot of movies, I even may have described A Real Pain as being this way, of like movies without a plot. You're kind of just wandering around And there literally is a plot in A Real Pain and in this.
Yeah.
There is a plot, but it doesn't feel like there's one. You know, you're kind of just meandering through, letting whatever happen. And I don't hate that, but in this one, it especially felt like, okay, where are we going at times? And then there's a certain moment near the end of this movie that I really just took such a hard left turn that just didn't work for me at all. That's where I felt like it was going full Looney Tunes. But up until this point, everything is so grounded. It's like, I can't do Looney Tunes with this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't want to say it was a bad movie. I did enjoy it too. But it didn't always work for me. It felt like a collection of good moments throughout, but it didn't always feel cohesive, I guess.
I can see that, yeah. Now, I do think it really does kind of get hurt by being such a similar movie to A Real Pain. Because I remember one thing we both liked about A Real Pain was sort of the ambiguity of the ending.
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to change? Are they going to stay the same? What's going to really happen with them? Where are they going to go from here? This one really seemed like it had a lot of resolution between the two.
Yeah, it definitely had an ending, but it felt silly. Like, it didn't feel as earned, I think, as in A Real Pain. And something else, and you know, it's not the fairest thing in the world to just compare it to another movie, but it's like in that, the characters all felt so real. I remember distinctly one of the compliments I had for that movie was like, it kind of felt like you forgot you were watching a movie. It felt like you were just watching a documentary about real people. This movie, everybody's a character, you know, and it's like, I never forgot for a second I was watching a movie. And, you know, at times, like, that's partially due to the amateurish feel of the writing and directing at times. Some of it's in the editing. Like, there's a shot early in the movie where, like, they're just driving around and they're also talking. And we've got these, you know, shots, far shots of them driving, wide shots of them driving. And the dialogue clearly does not match up with them talking in the car. And it's like an entire couple of scenes of that in a row. And I'm like, was it that hard to just have them say the lines while driving? Like, because they're clearly not, or they're talking about something else entirely. So it's like, I don't know. It just, the filmmaking was amateurish. It really was. And I do think I even said something similar in A Real Pain. Was like, you can tell this is a first-time writer-director. Much better first-time writer-director than this, though. Not saying that there's no future for Michael Arengano. Is his name Michael, too? Now I'm second-guessing because are they both Michaels? They are. Okay.
Yes.
Angarano, Mikey A. I'm not saying he doesn't have a future. I think he has a lot of potential. I think there's a lot of potential there. But it, like I said, it felt like a student film at times. It felt really kind of just sloppy at times. Like I said, it felt like there was good moments, but it didn't feel cohesive. I mean, frankly, the opening part, like I said, with them driving around, it reminded me of Manos, the Hands of Fate. Like, and that's not something I should be reminded of.
Ooh, yeah. I have never had anything that remind me of that besides just that TV show.
So, like, that's what I'm saying. It was like, it had some serious flaws to it, but it had some really good moments too. And it also had a lot of heart. And I think the heart is kind of what pulls you through even the bad parts and keeps you wanting to see what's going to happen, even if these characters aren't as well-rounded or as believable as, say, A Real Pain's characters were. You know, with Kieran Culkin and Jesse Eisenberg, like I said, I believe they were who they were, you know, and I wanted something for them. And it didn't even necessarily revolve around whether I liked them or not. But it did help that they were so believable that you can feel yourself in those roles. With these characters, I did not resonate with them at all because they didn't feel real. They didn't feel like people. They just felt like ideas or concepts. And I'm like, I can't put myself in their shoes because they don't feel like real people.
I felt of the characters, Mikey A was probably the closest to being a real person.
Yeah. I can agree
Mikey
with that.
C, his was very caricaturistic. I don't actually know what the hell the word is.
He was a caricature.
Yeah, yes.
All of the women too were caricatures.
Yeah.
Especially Kristen Stewart's character. is so unlikable, it's insane. And I like Kristen Stewart as an actress. I think she's good. Like, I'm not one of those, like, oh, she sucks because she was in Twilight people. Like, I've seen her act very well in some movies. And she wasn't acting poorly in this movie. The character is just a bitch.
Yeah, the character has essentially nothing to do besides be at home.
Be annoying. And complain about stuff. And I get it, like, she's stressed out because she's pregnant. Give her a lot of grace for that.
And Mikey C is crazy.
And he is crazy. But, like, she's awful to him. Absolutely awful to him. And I'm just like, oh my God. And, like, at a certain point, she says, like, I love you. And I'm like, do you? Because I can't tell.
She loves him. But he's annoying the fuck out of her right now.
Yeah.
And recently.
Yeah. There's overall in this movie, it was a very sense of, like, I'm going to get so much shit for saying this. A Hollywood beta male version of romance in this movie, where the dudes are lame, pathetic idiots who need coddling, and the women are strong and don't need help from anybody. And that was annoying to me, too.
I will definitely say that with Mikey C's wife. That is definitely the case with her. It didn't help that basically the only two important guys in the film that we had are just the two Mikeys.
And they're psychopathic losers. Maybe loser is a strong word, but they're both, and psychopathic's a bit strong too, but they're both, like, a little bit crazy, and they're both a little bit lame for various reasons. And I just, yeah. So, meanwhile, all the women are strong and independent and don't need help. And so that was just something that went, huh, to me. All that being said, I do agree that I did manage to have a decently good time with it. But, yeah, I really doubt I'll ever watch this movie again. I guess I would be okay with giving it a 6 because 5 definitely feels too harsh. But I don't have a whole lot of strong opinions on it. I think some of the comedy worked. I think some of the acting was good.
Yeah.
It had some moments of, oh, that's unique, you know? But overall, it felt like I said, good moments mixed into an overall kind of mess to me.
Yeah, I definitely probably won't see this again. I definitely enjoyed it more when towards the beginning, when it was unfolding.
I agree with that too.
Dragged a bit later on, but I mean, it wrapped up well enough. I feel like we'd both enjoy it more if we weren't just constantly comparing it to a real pain. But it's just like, it's impossible for us not to do it. It's just so similar.
I do disagree, though, that it wrapped up well. I thought the wrap up was the worst part. I hated the whole ending of this movie.
I guess I'm just trained to think happy endings are just... yeah, okay.
It felt so unearned and out of nowhere. And, like... maybe I should save this for spoilers. I had an expectation for that last scene that didn't happen. I think it would have worked a lot better than what we did get.
I'll be honest. There's one final scene. I think it actually is the final scene or pretty close to it.
Mm-hmm.
That was an odd scene there at the end.
Yeah, we'll come back to this in spoilers because we're dancing around it too much.
It's impossible to talk too much about.
So I'll give it a soft 6 with a thumbs up to Mikey A, saying whatever you want to work on next. My butt will be in the seat for the next one.
Yeah.
I didn't love this, but I see the vision, and I think we'll be better next time around.
Listen, maybe this is just me. I'd say solid first attempt.
Yeah, sure.
First movie? Hey.
Yeah.
Pretty good for a first movie.
Yeah, I liked you in Sky High.
Sky
Big fan.
High, man.
And he was not only was his character my favorite thing about the movie, I thought his acting was also the best in the movie.
Yeah.
I thought overall he was my favorite thing in the movie. I didn't dislike any of the actors though. I thought they were all doing their best with maybe a mediocre script. But yeah, especially Mikey A. I thought he was good. It is amusing when you write yourself into movies and you can notice things and you're like, yeah, you were writing, I see what you're doing there. But yeah, overall, soft 6 for me.
I think I said 6.5.
6.5 from Justin.
That's fine. Yeah.
We're going to get into spoilers now, so if you don't want anything spoiled, you should go see it. If it's in a theater near you, may have to drive an hour away.
I wouldn't drive an hour away, though.
It's not worth it. I would wait for it to be on streaming. But yeah, go watch it. And then you can come back and we'll talk about it then. But also don't forget to like, share, follow, review, subscribe, all those things. They all help. And to you, that one guy that unsubscribed this week, fuck you. We lost a subscriber this week. Anyway.
Come back.
Or don't. You know what? We don't need you. Okay?
We'll get W.
What? We'll get W?
2 of them. We'll get 2 for them.
I thought you meant the letter in the alphabet. I was like,
That one too.
is that a weird pun we're going for? Like, we don't need you. We need W.
Well,
What? I don't know. Yeah. I was trying to help you out. I was confused though. All right. Spoilers. Thanks. Bye. Okay. So before I say what I wanted to, I thought / wanted to happen at the end, what were you talking about?
So, okay. Thinking about it, I did. Every time I think about the ending of the movie, I keep just thinking about when Mikey A is driving off with, I cannot remember her. Tally. And Mikey C going home and, I guess gonna fix the crib up eventually. The practice was a little weird, whatever. They're kind of in 2 different parts of California.
Yeah, that didn't make sense. I was like, how often are we having these meetings?
Yeah.
Because you can't drive 6 hours every day for a meeting.
That was odd. But those other 2 parts, I was okay with as like a typical happy story. It seemed like it was going that way.
I really expected, so when they were in the meeting and he's giving the talk to the guy, I really expected it to yet again bounce out to have another person there actually be in charge and him trying to take over the thing. Because the thing is, in A Real Pain, we see these characters have this moment of kind of starting to understand each other, but realistically, they're going to go back home and be the versions of themselves they already were.
Right.
Maybe slightly wiser, but you're the same person. These guys didn't learn anything new. These guys didn't grow at all. They shouldn't have, but supposedly they did.
Well, yeah. No, it's very clear that Mikey A has grown. Because,
why?
Well, he's gone from being one of the people in the group therapy session to now actually leading his own group therapy session.
Yeah, it felt so unearned.
Mikey C, I see no change at all. I guess he's calmed down.
He's less scared of everything. Like, she goes, "Oh, you're not going to sit in the back with him? What if he starts to cry? Yeah, he'll be fine." And he's not totally sure in himself, but he's working on it.
I would just touch his shoulder. Yeah.
Even
I guess
he
so.
grabs his head. Yeah.
But
it felt so unearned. And it also frustrated me that once again, I guess maybe for this part, you could argue it's just because they're 1 and 2 main characters. But it's like they're the only 2 that had to learn anything. None of these other characters that we met had to learn anything. They're perfect how they are. It's just these 2 idiots that have to grow up. And
pretty much.
That doesn't, I don't know. That was...
The funny thing about this, because of course, I can't, I try to stop, but I just cannot stop comparing it to Real Pain.
It's the better version in every way of the same thing.
They had the straight-laced, what were they, cousins?
Yeah,
that one?
cousins.
They had the straight-laced cousin,
they're just
and they had the crazy
friends.
cousin.
Yeah.
It was wild, because I thought, of course, we're introduced to Mikey C just immediately taking the thing off. So, is he going to be the crazy one? He seemed like he was going to be the straight-laced one, but I guess I don't know what Mikey A's style of acting is as an adult. Yeah. So, but then he's jumping out a tree when we first meet him, basically.
Yeah.
So, he's clearly the crazy one. But then he becomes the more straight-laced one over the course of the film, and Mikey C stays the craziest one.
Yeah, it just didn't make sense to me.
They kept swapping the roles.
Especially once, Michael Cera steals the baby and runs away, and they write it off as a panic attack. I'm like, I've never met anybody, in order to have that level of a panic attack, that's not a panic attack. That's a psychotic break.
Yeah,
And we're just going to write it off as, ha, let's, get you home, buddy. I was expecting him to have to go to, not therapy, because that's where he went, but, to be institutionalized or something.
I figured they weren't going to press any charges. He was going to be okay that way. But I definitely thought he'd be getting some deeper therapy.
He had to get help.
Because,
that's not
something
you just shrug off.
My dad's had panic attacks for his whole life. I've heard of panic attacks in TV shows and stuff. I've never seen them like this, where you just lose it so hard, you're destroying things on accident, but just going crazy. You kidnap the child because he's not safe.
Right.
There's some deep delusions there. And I can see where he's coming from in some instances, crazily.
The baby crib makes a lot more sense than stealing a baby.
Yeah, no, but Panic attack. I didn't quite catch that one.
No.
I thought they'd explain that was something else, and still with the same outcome essentially.
Him destroying the baby crib to me said OCD. Because like he got into a pattern of, oh, this is creaking, and if I just wiggle it, and he just couldn't stop himself, and that's like the shaking and everything. That, I don't know if it was supposed to be OCD, but it sounded like that or something like that. I'm like, okay, I can see that.
Right.
He needs medication for that or whatever. And OCD can get pretty bad and out there, and I guess maybe in some form you would steal a baby, but I'm like, to me, that's like a bipolar break, like that sounds like a psychotic break. And I'm like, that's not comparable to shaking a crib until it breaks. That is, you kidnapped a baby and ran away. That's insane.
Hey, he was trying to keep the baby safe.
I get that.
Who's going to keep the baby safe?
Tally.
Her?
She'd been doing it for 3 months because she was pregnant. They met a year ago.
Yeah.
And so she has had this baby for 3 months, even though it looks twice that.
It's gonna be a professional athlete of some sort, either a pro wrestler,
huge baby,
offensive lineman.
And they're like, it looks so much like you, and I'm like, no, the baby looks Asian. It doesn't look anything. Like Michael.
Especially at the end, it looks so little like Michael.
I was like, what do you mean it looks so much like him?
Far less. Let's find two babies that look nothing like this guy. All right.
Yeah.
I need them different ages, so it looks like the baby aged up, but keep it the same.
Make sure they don't look anything like
nothing. All right.
Yeah. This movie, it was just all over the place because when it started, I was like, I'm into this. I could get into this.
Yeah.
And I say it kind of like started like they were driving too much, and it reminded me of Manos. And I was kind of like, you're losing me. And then they get to Sacramento, and I start getting really into it. And they meet the girls, and they go to the wrestling ring, and then he starts having this thing with this single mom, and I'm like, I'm really into this. I really like this dynamic. And then they go and meet his actual baby mama, and I'm like, you're starting to lose me again because I don't, like, I was wondering the whole time, what the fuck does the first scene have to do with anything? And then finally it's like, oh, and I'm like, okay, I guess, don't love this, but I guess it works.
Right.
And then when he stole the baby, I was like completely out. I'm like, I just don't care anymore. This is so weird. Like, I can't, like, that's where I'm like, it felt like it was Looney Tunes. Like, I'm like, you don't joke about stealing a baby, like, and they're doing it in such a lighthearted, silly, goofy way. Like, they're riding on a scooter after him, and he trips and falls, and like, it felt like a Nickelodeon episode of some show. I'm like, this doesn't work for me. I don't know. It wasn't in tune with everything else as far as I could tell. I'm not saying you can't do slapstick style humor live action, obviously. I'm not saying that, but it's like, it felt so out of place. Like, it felt like such a sharp turn, like, because earlier in the movie, the closest thing you can compare to that is when they're having this wrestling scene.
Right.
But it's all grounded in reality. Like, when they're doing these wrestling moves on each other, you can clearly tell it's fake.
Yeah.
And then, like, he jumps out of the tree and he rolls his ankle because, like, that's what would happen to a normal 30 to 40-year-old guy or however old they're supposed to be. And it's like, so to then have this really cartoony moment just feels like so wrong in the context of everything.
It's just such an extreme switch up for him. And I know you could see clearly that the living environment for Tally and the baby was triggering him completely.
Just like it was at the other place, but all he did... I was expecting him to start cleaning stuff again.
I thought he was just going to break the...
I thought he was going to break the crib too, yeah.
But with the baby inside it, and that
then
was
maybe hurt it, and then
potentially
she was gonna freak out, and I didn't know where it was gonna go from there. But like that seemed like the obvious kind of route we were headed down.
And then he just went for a drive.
Yeah.
That screams psychotic break, but he was cool. So I didn't think they were gonna press charges. That
I didn't know where it was gonna go.
I thought that might screw up the relationship a bit, but that clearly didn't have any effect on it, or at least not that they cared to show us.
Yeah. I thought it was just gonna lead to, well, she's going to kick them out because they could have killed her baby.
Yeah, obviously.
And so now they're homeless for another night. What are they going to do? And it was just going to be another... Because like I said, this movie has a plot, but it didn't feel like it. So it was just like, this happened, then what, then what, then what, then what? So it's not like I could really predict where it was going at any moment because it didn't feel like it had an arc to it at all. So I don't know. Yeah, so many things just happen without like having much of a buildup or a letdown or anything. Like Kristen Stewart has to go to the hospital because she was bleeding. That the only purpose of that was to show that Michael Cera didn't freak out about it. And so that was that supposed to show character growth in him? Because it was the opposite of character growth because he blew up later. So like I just don't understand. It was like they didn't have a script and they were just filming stuff as they went. All right, I feel like that's pretty much everything worth saying. It's a fine movie, and like I said, it makes me interested to see what he'll do next more than anything. Because the people involved are definitely talented. This didn't quite work for me, but that doesn't mean there's not a lot of potential there, especially because like it is obviously I'm not accusing him of trying to copy, Jesse Eisenberg. I'm sure that there was in his mind no correlation at all in the movie, and it was just he wanted to make this story that happened to be similar to that one.
Sure.
But the fact that it is so similar, that often happens with a lot of people's like first movies because, you're trying to find your voice still. So I think a second movie is when you start to really get a feel for what they are going to be like as a filmmaker. So I hope he gets the chance to make a second one because I think it'll be a lot better and it'll be a lot more unique. And I think that'll be a good thing. So, yeah, soft 6 for me. 6.5 over there.
Yeah, I'll still say 6.5. Like, I enjoyed Mikey A's progression as a character for what he had. I do feel like it feels like he skipped a few steps at times. But, I liked where it was going for him, and it made sense in the end. Mikey C's a lot less so for me. His kind of holds the movie back more. But,
I
like
Michael
him.
Cera. Hate his facial hair.
His facial hair
That was one of the worst beards I've ever seen in my life.
Keep it up.
All right, thanks for watching, listening, whatever you do, wherever you do it. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Hopefully the audio doesn't suck. Because unlike the other time when we recorded with those other mics, these mics are feeding into the camera, so it's the only audio we have. So if it sucks, it sucks. We'll find out.
Testing, testing, testing.